All right. Looks like we're live on YouTube. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2024. We have just celebrated the release of Backdrop 128, which came out yesterday. And this is our first dev meeting since then. A lot of our core developers are very tired. So today will be primarily focused on minor follow-ups and other issues that may be unrelated in the wake of our release. So let's go around and do some quick introductions first. I'm happy to start. My name is Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I'm very excited about the new Icon API toy we just got in Backdrop Core, and I'm curious to see what other people will do with it. And that is what I'm happiest about today. Tim, let's do you next, and then Greg.
Sure, my name's Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim, Deerwood, Minnesota. Also very happy about the release and very tired. Not that I not that I did that much in the release in the last couple of days. But anyways, Greg, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia. I'm super excited about the features that we got to land, and there are a couple that they're in a good spot that didn't make it. We'll slate it for the next release in September. But yeah, in general, so many follow-ups, so many tiny follow-ups to improve things. But yeah, super excited.
Great. Thanks. Eli, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Eli Lissick. I'm a developer and I'm calling from San Diego, California.
Fantastic. In the world of Contrib this week, we have a handful of new modules that came out. We have Lebowski, Bureauclock, IP, Deny by Country, Facebook Pixel, and Linked Field, which I don't remember if we talked about Linked Field last week or not. So there's a lot of activity in Contrib. I can also say, based on the number of new projects that are being moved into the Contrib group, that there's been a lot of activity with stuff that's in there getting worked on that maybe does not yet have a new release. So it's really exciting to see the sort of increase in momentum going on with Backdrop right now.
Yeah,
For
because I'll be selfish and just mention we're doing a bunch of work. I just started projects for about 5 domain access related modules,
great.
but no releases yet. But they are available for people to play with and help with.
Great, thanks. So we mentioned 128.0 came out yesterday. I know there were a lot of people heavily involved in a lot of those issues, even up to the very last minute last night. So I want to thank everybody who was helping with changes and pull requests. And then when Nate and I got tired and went to bed, other people came and like rewrote the blog posts and like fixed all the other stuff. So anyway, it's so nice to have sort of a communal planet-wide effort to come together and get things out. And it feels really great to be part of a community that's so supportive and appreciative, and everyone puts in so much time and effort. So that's really great. Now that 128 is out, we have identified a few issues that are follow-ups based on some of the new features that we added. One of the new features we added was configuration storage in the database, and there are 2 follow-ups related to that. One of them is putting the configuration location on the status report, and the other one is putting the configuration location into our telemetry data so that we can get some statistics in the future about who's running Backdrop in which way. And then we have a follow-up to our Icon API. We made some changes to the way that CSS worked for the admin bar so that the new icons could be used. And there's some follow-ups there about making sure that we're not going to be affecting Contrib too much by switching to our use of relative font sizes and variables. So
we need a third follow-up for the config to be added to the debug information minus, but not actually revealing the actual because people had valid concerns about security implications. So not revealing the exact directory to a config, yeah, but mentioning if it's files or database. Yeah. So
yeah, great. Is that issue, does that already exist?
Nope.
Okay.
It's on my to-do list. Sorry,
okay.
too many things to do.
I won't put a link in the agenda yet then.
And by the way, I just updated the demo sandboxes, so they're running the new version, so people can. I just did that a few minutes ago, so people can start testing the new release if they want. Backdropcms.org/demos, or go into backdropcms.org and hit the try Backdrop button. It should get you there.
Thanks, Greg.
Although I think it's worth pointing out that the really big issues that got into the latest release are not UI related, right? So you can't do a lot with icons or config management in the demo sandbox, but
But you can take advantage of the new debug information report. And so
Yes.
if you are someone that relies heavily on the user interface, you'll now have an easier time getting help from other people, whether that's by creating issues in the Backdrop queue or talking about it in the forum or sharing it in chat. I think that's going to be a real helpful tool for everyone across the board. So
yeah, and we probably should mention the icon browser module, which doesn't have a release yet, but it is stable, or it works for testing, and it probably could be used. And it's available in the Contrib project. Just I don't think there's a stable release yet.
So that's something that people can do with the
Mhm.
demo sandboxes. You can spin up a demo sandboxes and then install the
Yeah.
icon browser module, the installer. Cool.
So I think that's all we had as urgent follow-ups, not even that urgent, but hopefully 128.1 follow-ups for the major release. But there are a handful of other little issues that are still in the 128 milestone that didn't get done for 127 too. So if anyone has any spare time, there's a lot of fun stuff just sitting there waiting to get finished. Which I think we got a lot of stuff pretty close. So I don't know. Sometimes that encourages the first release after the major release to include all of the stuff that we almost got in that didn't.
As side sort of like satellite tasks that we need to do, the CSPL check has gotten into a good place. So I think that we're good now to move it to the ops independent directory, repo in GitHub, so that we don't have to necessarily do. So there's two types of commits that we do, two types of changes when it comes to spell checking. One has to do with updates of new words that need to be added, or words that need to be removed from the directory, the Backdrop specific directory. And there's certain things that do require commits for core, because it's cleanup of silly variables or things that we are using in tests that shouldn't be in the dictionary. Otherwise they would be ignored and would perpetuate, adding them, re-adding them in our code. So yeah, that's one thing that has been on my list to do is fix the sandboxes for the pull requests, because we cannot actually install contrib modules there to make tests easier. We lost that functionality somewhere along the way. I had it solved at some point, but then I don't know, maybe I need to get back to that. We need to sort it.
Okay.
Right. So we didn't have a bunch of core issues to talk about today, but Eli brought a question about complex upgrades and entity types. So Eli, if you want to restate that for the video, we can get into that now.
Yeah, cool. So I'm talking about a situation where you're porting modules that have custom entity types. And I am mostly just trying to get a temperature check on like whether I'm running into something that is an expected feature, or if it's a bug or some sort of weird confounding thing that's going on in my install. But you know how some entities in Backdrop Core were migrated from like the default class to like having their own class method. Is it expected that any other custom entity follows that pattern? So like if you're migrating a module or porting a module that has a bunch of custom entities that were just defined with hook entity info and not like properly classed, are you expected to change all of those classes over? Because I was running into issues when that wasn't happening from Backdrop Core.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we attempted to switch everything in core to being properly classed. And that is because we made some changes to the entity API that assumes that they were. I don't know if it's required. I don't know if anyone's tried it.
So it is required, but you can just specify that your class is the default entity class.
Thanks, Joseph.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes things a lot easier to not have to know every single thing that that entity was supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have any questions, or Eli, do you have any other questions?
I probably have a lot of questions, but they're not coming to mind at this second.
Okay.
We're working
So-
on a lot of like large module ports at right now, but this is like my week off from that work, so I'm trying to remember what I was doing.
Have you looked at the Entity Plus module?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
Yeah, so it provides a default entity class as well. And if there is something from the Drupal 7 Entity API that you feel that you think is missing, it's probably in there.
Yeah, I think I have that installed on like every site I've started to port so far because they all just have
Mhm.
really complex stuff going on.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like one of our top 5 modules, isn't it? I think most sites use it.
Yeah.
Entity Plus. So there has been talk about trying to get that stuff in core, isn't there? Or is that rolled out? Is that a 2x thing?
Yeah, no, there is talk about moving some of the things into core in, even if they're not in the same exact state as they are in Entity Plus, redoing them so that they're backwards compatible and would have the same result using the actual core APIs. And that does mean we'd have to make a couple of additions to the core APIs too. But yeah, there has been discussion about it. Some of the things I think can come across, just copy them into the right place. But things like entity metadata wrapper and stuff like that needs to go away.
There was also discussion of like adding methods to allow methods that would allow us to do you use some of the functionality of metadata wrapper without needing an extra class wrapping around our existing classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the list. But I was very excited that I think the icon API that was on the forum in our list of features people wanted, it was like tied for #1 with all of the other most wanted
Yes.
features. And so that was really nice to get that sort of checked off as like the thing people
Yep.
wanted the most, at least as far as that survey went. We finally got it done. And it was funny because Nate, after he closed the issue yesterday from having merged it, gotten all of the documentation done, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go take a screenshot of the forum where it shows that it's the like most wanted issue. And he went there and he's like, it's gone. And I'm like, yeah, you fixed it. You closed the issue. It's not most wanted anymore. He was like, oh no, I didn't get a screenshot.
Actually, I'm not sure, Jen, if those things automatically go away or if I went and actually closed, unpublished the node for that. And maybe I shouldn't have or shouldn't have had to do that. I don't remember, but that's something we could look at.
If you did it last night between 7
No.
PM Pacific, okay. So
No,
I
if-
think he looked at it before we
And it
closed the
was,
milestone, and then he looked at it like after the launch and saw that it was missing. So I think it happens on cron. I think it's part of the JSON
okay,
importer from GitHub, and it only pulls the open issues. And so as soon as Nate closed it, then on the backdrop side, that node would have been unpublished. So
let's look at that list really quick. So just in case other people haven't been keeping up with it. So on the Backdrop forum, there's this wish list link. And these are things anybody that has an account in the forum can vote for features. I'm not logged in right now, which is why I don't have the vote button. But I would if I were logged in, and you can vote for any sort of feature request in the core issue queue. And if you can update, you can come back. If you voted like a year ago, and you might want to come back and update your votes because sometimes your priorities change and things become less or more important. So I would recommend people doing that. Anyways, definitely the icon font or icon library was 1 or 2.
it was
And-
tied. They all had
yeah.
14 votes.
Sure, and now it's
Yeah.
gone from that. I mean, these shift, that the numbers shift up and down a bit as people, I for one go back every couple months and modify my votes.
And we do
So-
ask that people limit their votes so that you don't vote
Yeah.
for 100 items. So it could be that the ones you voted on previously got fixed, and so now you have a free vote available
Yeah.
and you can put it on something else that you want.
My votes had crept way above. It's not limited, so you can vote for more than 10. We encourage you not to, and frankly, the more you vote for, the less impact your vote has. Because if you just vote for everything, then you haven't helped us
Change nothing.
prioritize anything, right? So it's better to limit your votes.
Yeah.
And then they'll have more impact. So anyways, just wanted to remind people of that because
It'll be
I-
good to get more people voting.
I was a little bit nervous about keeping this as just an ongoing survey. When we set this up, we had discussed doing it once a year or just having it be ongoing. And one of my fears about ongoing was that people would vote and just leave it, and 2 years later, those votes don't mean so much. Because priorities may have shifted, but the votes haven't. And so we may want to talk about if at some point we want to reset the votes and start over.
Yeah,
Yeah, or
Good
have it
idea.
so that when we finish something, we flag it as finished, or we unpublish it, and then an email goes to those that have sent votes and say, "This has been done." Maybe
thank you
wanna
for
vote."
voting.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah,
vote
thank you.
again.
Yeah, I started to poo-poo that idea, but actually, if we could send a note to people who voted for something that got in, it would be nice to just sort of reinforce that maybe their vote helped with that.
Yeah.
I think we can do it.
It could go as a reminder in the announcement, like an email announcement that we send out.
Yeah, our newsletter.
Yeah, in the newsletter.
Yeah,
Anyways,
It might also be a good idea to bring it up like when we have backdrop lives, because we got a lot of people there that don't regularly pay attention in Zulip or what have you.
yeah.
I always think about it right after Backdrop Live's open or closed. Oh,
Maybe we
we
should
should
put
have
it,
talked about that.
we could put it in the description for the closing session.
Sure.
And then next year or next session, when we go to duplicate the closing session from this last one, it'll be in there already. So we can,
Sure.
we can try and remember that way.
Okay.
So one thing that I wanted to bring up is we call the thing API icon API, right? And there's a respective contrib module for Drupal 7. It doesn't have that many installations, around 7,000. And that provides a UI, and maybe the UIs should be left for contrib as well. But it does have certain things like a token that you can use for, along with a text filter that you can place it in rich text editors. Or it provides a theme function from what I see, and we could do a theme wrapper that sort of like translates it to our whatever equivalent, so that if people have configured things, it works. Or we'll try to see, but maybe it's more complicated and we can't do it, but we should consider that.
Yeah.
And then
I-
update the list of modules that we have to say that it's partially ported, or
I did get to put, there was some module that,
SVG.
yeah, image SVG. I'm like, there was some, I just put it there. I don't remember, but yeah,
It's
I updated
SVG.
it yesterday. But yeah,
SVG
I didn't think of icon API. That's another good one. And another thing
That's,
I was thinking about earlier in this meeting, as we were, or the last meeting, we were demoing the icon browser module, is I was wondering if that should become icon user interface. And then it could be a core candidate for the future, where if that module added all of the stuff that tied the icons to the user interface, we would have an icon API and an icon UI, and we'd be able to turn off UI in production if we didn't want people to use it. But that way it could like integrate with the menu system. It could have the browser where you can choose and select. It could, and that could be a nice option. I don't know. I'll go create an issue in the issue queue and see how Laren feels about that. But
Yeah, which is again basically the functionality that this contrib module provides in a different way, but yeah.
Laren, if you watch
That's probably-
this meeting, clarify, but my understanding is that Laren is open to that, and that he specifically sort of mentioned that this was kind of a playground module to try stuff out, that to help us figure out what we might want in core. So
Yeah.
I think he would very much appreciate any feedback on what people think may or may not be core worthy from this or what it's missing.
Probably a good
Uh,
idea too, because it would reduce duplicate code for like finding all the icons, because that's one of the things the core API doesn't provide is like please give me a list of what's available. And that was one of the things Lauren had to build for that module. So we
Yeah.
could reuse that.
One can argue that the Phosphor, once you know which icon set you use, it does provide a UI where you can browse and select, so you can go to that site. But even so, it would be good to have some sort of, yeah.
Mhm.
I
think also the icon API module in Drupal was a Google Summer of Code project, and Nate was the mentor for it.
Huh.
So he's
Mhm.
done this before.
Right.
Yeah, he mentioned that as he was working on it. He was like, I just went to go look to see what other modules were available, and I found this one that I worked on. It's always funny when you're searching for something and then you're the
Yeah.
problem, and you're like, oh, that was me.
One thing that I wasn't like, I couldn't, there were so many things I couldn't keep up with. So I haven't read all the so many comments in the swappable config storage what you call it issue. So I'm sure that there might have been comments of this needs to be a follow-up or something like that, or clarification, and I need to go through that. But at some point, I realize now by reading the change records that we only allow that during installation, and we only allow it via a settings PHP flag. And our installer writes to the settings PHP file, right? So we could, in theory, expose a checkbox that says put it in the database or something
Joseph-
like that in the installer. But I'm not sure at which stage of the bootstrap it does it.
Joseph, are you working on a module that does that?
For config,
Yeah,
moving it.
someone
it-
was.
so
For the record, sorry, I wasn't talking about a UI that converts on an existing site. Is when you install Backdrop during installation, where you put, I imagine, the database credentials.
Oh, you
or
do
whatever.
it. You do it in settings.php, just like
Yeah.
all the other stuff you do during
so
installation.
you're
But-
saying ask the user if they want at installation and then set up the correct one for them.
Yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm saying.
I don't think that's necessary. I mean, you have to define where
We
your
could-
config storage is anyway in that file. You can't not do
No,
it.
we automatically write to that.
We write to settings PHP the config directories as a part of the installation, right? So
In the-
Yeah.
you could write the same setting that changes the config storage to database.
Yeah.
I'm
or
not
the
sure I've
active one, yeah.
ever let Backdrop do that.
I'm pretty sure it has like it replaces the config lines with a hard. So the
With the
default
hash?
config, yeah, it
No,
replaces.
does it? I don't
Yeah,
think that
it's-
it does.
I
It's
thought
got
it
a-
said like
it's got an
MD5 and it was hard coded to
Right,
like
but
take.
when you run the installation, it replaces it with the actual value from that function. So it
Huh,
hard codes it.
that makes sense.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it does, yeah.
Yes, I thought that you said that it replaces the database thing, the config strings with the database string. It doesn't do that. The change record explicitly says that you
You
can
have to do
remove
it.
them. They're not necessary, but we don't remove them. I mean, I'm referring to if you switch to the database storage, we don't delete the lines that were previously
Right.
specifying the config storage. Yeah. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But
And-
we don't put, so we had this whole effort of like
Right.
remove all the questions from the installer. And this is again like a 1%
We could-
Right.
scenario.
Mm,
You're either
We
going
could
to
stick
be
it. We
running
could stick
Pantheon
it on the
upstream or
form with the
something.
database settings.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, where it's collapsed already in a thing like where you set the credentials and it's like you have to do advanced settings or
Mm.
something like that. It says advanced settings in the installer. I need to run the installer again because I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah,
I have
haven't
scripts
done
that
it.
run it automatically. But yeah, point
Time to
taken
revisit.
though. Point taken
It's been
though,
a
Jen,
while.
because we were trying
Okay.
to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Simplify as much as possible.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we removed the UI of selecting profiles even, and it turns out that it was a good decision after all, because if you look at the telemetry, almost nobody, close to nobody uses like custom profiles. So yeah,
I mean, we knew that before.
Yeah.
Generally, like especially for our audience. Our audience is much less likely to be using them than Drupal's audience. But it's
Yeah.
nice to have data. Ah,
I have over
It-
20 sites using a custom profile.
but it's your profile though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, you're special.
It's just like, it's basically the standard profile with just like a bunch of things I change out of the box when I set up a site done already. And it's,
Yeah.
I
it's like,
agree.
I don't do anything nearly as complicated as like Pineapple used to do.
Tim,
And
did
I
you
know
have a thought?
it's pretty early, but we already have like 80 some sites reporting jQuery versions and Drupal compatibility layer. So we are starting to get some metrics, and it seems that only 2 sites out of 85 have disabled the compatibility layer. So this relates to a discussion that we had whether we should remove it or disable it by default or whatever. And yeah, and 30 out of 85 sites you still use jQuery version 1 instead of 3. So it's useful statistics.
Yeah.
It's
I
good
think
to
it'll
know.
be interesting though, because like the Drupal compatibility layer being on by default means that there are a whole bunch of people who are running brand new backdrop sites that never needed it, that don't even know it's on. Right? So
Mhm.
yeah,
Does it
maybe
does it put messages in the log if you use it? Like,
we should maybe
Maybe
put it
we'll
on the
make it a
status
warning or
report.
something. Yeah, maybe we'll make it a warning or a performance sort of like enhancement thing, although it doesn't, like,
It's
I don't
not,
think that it's
we
not
need to
considerable.
measure. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that's the least of our performance, like 18
Yes,
wrapper
exactly.
functions or something.
It
like,
could be a tip.
The
like
logic
most of
though.
most of the time the wrapper functions don't even get called. Like if the module is reported correctly, nothing gets called in there. So it's literally just like the time it takes to read the file from disk.
Yeah, fair enough. And
We could put
I
it
think
somewhere.
that argument was made as well, that we barely touch that thing. It might be that the old function that we sort of like forgot to put a wraparound or something like that, and we touch it every once a year. It's not a maintenance overhead or something that has bothered us over the years. So
Mhm.
Well,
if it shields people from errors and problems, yeah.
since it's a small meeting and in the interest of getting something actually done, can we go back to that flexible layout CSS issue and just quickly settle on
Yeah,
an
because Greg's
answer?
here.
Because
Yes.
Greg's here and then we don't have to.
So we
So,
were looking at screenshots trying to guess what you did.
All right, so I just took the border, the same color border, and I put it around the. Yep,
Here.
that's it.
But
Yes,
did you
because
also here?
no, I don't think I might.
So
That's-
on the
For
lower
sure,
photo-
I
wait,
did it. Yeah, sorry. If you go back to those screenshots, those that are side by side and
Yeah, I just want
oh,
to
for sure.
really quick see if we can tell if it's done. Anyways, well, is there a difference here between?
So what happens is I have
I'll go
two.
back to yours.
Yeah, I have 3 monitors, right?
Mhm.
One of them is my MacBook, which is a Retina. The other one is a really good one, and the other one is just a chip. It's like portable monitors, small monitors. One of them that is less expensive. It doesn't have the quality that the others have. And basically, when I put anything that has the UI, the block UI or the flexible layout, flexible templates UI, you cannot distinguish between the white and the gray around it at
Yeah.
all. With that thing around it, then it makes it distinguishable. So in the second set of screenshots, before after screenshots, is because and that's not my change, it's you did that change. You added so if you look at the second screenshot, the right version of it is your pull request theme, right? It adds a border, which I find a nice thing around the whole draggable blocks thing. Sorry, it's the opposite. You've added that. The other one,
I
yes,
wouldn't
and
have
it
done
didn't,
anything to this.
yes, and it didn't exist. So in order to match with the other things that are draggable, I basically added one to match yours from your pull request. So your pull request adds, or we do have
But
The
so the draggable things are different, right? So like on the top row, what the draggable thing is it's the gray box with the plus minus icon in the left where it says header. So
Yep.
that's the thing you're dragging. And in the lower shot, the thing you're dragging is the actual block. And so what we've done is we've not matched them. We've matched two different things, which is might be fine, but it is a little weird.
no, I'm not.
Like
I'm
we
not
should, like
referring
if we
to-
wanted to match them, we should have done the sample block. That's the gray contrast that matches the actual block.
Hmm.
Or
So basically,
wanted
what I
it
was
where the
going for,
drop shadow is.
yeah, I'm not referring to the dotted line, right? It's just because there's the
Right.
thing that
But that's the
surrounds
problem.
draggable
That's the
item.
problem though, right? Like if you change that border on the first shot, that matches the dotted line on the second shot. That's what should match.
Well, okay.
But the different,
These,
like, as far as
these are,
elements go.
these are different, right? The header block. No, this is the header and that's the header. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But
Can-
you
can
know,
Which issue was that? It was
this is
63.
issue 6325. 6325.
Yes.
I mean,
So-
there are some differences between the two that I don't think we can make them perfectly consistent. Also, I don't know if they have to be perfectly consistent.
I don't think they need to be perfectly consistent either, but I do think we
Yeah.
need to be careful that we're not like giving people subconscious signals as to like what
Right.
they can drag
Well, the dotted line
or
is a good
where they
example.
can draw.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
and
The
so like
dotted
the
line has
blocks-
function. Yeah.
The blocks having a very specific style, making them look like they're draggable on the blocks UI.
Right, right.
Should match the rows having a very consistent style, making
Yes.
them look like they're draggable, not the thing where the arrow is pointing. Right, if that
Well,
makes
Are
sense.
you
right,
referring to
but
the
the
first set?
purpose of these lines though isn't to convey anything like that. It's just to better outline in cases
Yes.
where it's
That's it.
visually hard to
Right,
tell.
but I'm talking about like
Right.
what we're doing to people in their actual using of it, not
Yes.
necessarily the design intent. And so I think if we change the
Right.
design to make something that is draggable look like something that is not draggable, that's a problem. Even though that might not be the intent, it's
Sure.
still a problem. And so I don't know exactly what's even changed in this pull request. It's really hard to tell, like in this specific
Can I share?
difference.
I think if you stop sharing your screen, can I share mine and just
Yep.
open the
Yeah,
pull
if you
request
have your-
sandbox?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
bear
I
with
went
me.
to the sandbox and forgot that you had a pull request on my pull request, so there is no public sandbox for this.
Yeah, it still could.
Although
could
I would
still-
be happy to just merge your sandbox or your PR, and then I can revert it.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
I
It
also
doesn't.
think like this could be done in
So-
a follow-up where we are trying to improve contrast generally on
Mhm.
both
Yes.
interfaces. And then maybe we could worry about more areas than just like that
Yeah, I mean,
that
Well, did
problem.
we-
I
we
So,
have-
more should be done to this page to improve contrast. This is just like a tweaking it.
yeah, I think we just
Yeah,
need to be careful
So that's what
about
I was
like,
trying to do. See, you
consistency.
have a white. So this is the draggable item, right?
yes.
So when it's resting here, you have a white surrounding,
yes.
and the slight border makes it. It's not much of an issue here, but it is an issue here on this side where you have white and slight gray, right? So if you go to the respective UI
Into the last
here,
page.
it doesn't have an outline here. It's a white surrounding,
Yep.
but this gray here, like it's not
Yeah, it
distinguishable.
disappears.
It-
Yeah,
yes. So that's what I was trying to do is try
Okay.
to bring is I liked this change here. I like this change here. So I tried to put it here as well.
okay, yep, I'm in favor of that. Because those
Okay.
are the same, those are both draggable thingies.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah.
was getting at.
Okay,
All right.
that didn't match the arrow on the screenshot, which is why, and then Tim and I were looking at the arrow and we're like, we can't tell if it's changed. Like, so I was just like, I don't know. What you said sounds good, but I don't see it that
I'll
happening.
tell you what, I'm just gonna merge Greg's PR into mine. That will
Okay.
update the sandbox.
Then
and
we can actually see it.
And you can
Yes,
actually
okay.
see. it.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. That was very helpful.
No worries.
Okay, that's
It's
one little
basically-
thing that we maybe we finish this issue today, hopefully.
So basically, I liked what you did in the pull request, and I go, okay, yes, you're trying to make this pull request match the manage blocks UI, and it's good. But now this specific thing, this border doesn't match the blocks UI, and that is better than what we have there. So I'm gonna try to fix it there as well. So basically, that's what I've done.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Bloody
We were like,
screenshots.
did he,
Okay,
where's
narrows.
the border? Which thing is he talking?
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Right.
I'm gonna have to drop because I have another meeting,
Sure.
but I will revisit this issue when I'm done, Tim, to
Sure.
put a final thumbs up on it for me anyway, to see what
Cool.
others think, but
Okay, I just hit the merge button on Greg's PR on my PR, so that should automatically update the sandbox.
Thanks.
it'll
Okay.
rebuild.
All right. Cool. Thanks everyone for
Thank
watching.
you.
Yeah,
Let's wrap this up.
yep.